Christmas!
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas!
'Tis the season, folks, a time of year when you can forget all of your problems and experience the simplicity of the holiday season. Christmas is a spectacle and a wonderful escape for most. And for me, I've been in love with this holiday since I was a youngster. The food, the lights, the music, and the joy around the hustle and bustle of your everyday department store puts me in my happy place. And for years, I've lived through all of this without any wonder about why humans do what we do at this special time of year. So, I'm here to serve you up a cup of cheerful knowledge that you can take with you this holiday season and really get to know why you're burning a Yule log or why your kids are dreaming about sugar plums. This is What Came Up, the etymology podcast about everyday things. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Deej Penhollow. Let's get started. Good day, everybody, and welcome to a special bonus episode of What Came Up, the etymology of Christmas. We're doing a deep dive into random Christmas traditions and why they happen. This weekend is Belsnickel in Pennsylvania. Belsnickel arrives usually alone, and he arrives in homes 1 to 2 weeks before Christmas. Like Santa, he determines if children that he visits are deserving of Christmas treats or disciplined for their behavior. We're going to dive into a little bit of what he is and why it's a thing. He's a bit like Santa, but he has a whip. Belznickel is a very creepy Pennsylvania Dutch icon. The article that I'm reading from today is from 2017, and there is some quotes from locals. Maybe not Du Bois local, but local enough. Let's get right into it. He comes at night, dressed in dirty furs, face blackened with charcoal. He has one purpose: to get children to behave until Christmas. Santa might quietly sneak down your chimney, but that's not der Belsnickel style. Belsnickel raps on windows, he loudly jingles bells, he hurls accusations of misdeeds at children. He carries a whip, sometimes he uses that whip. He's there to teach a lesson. Christmas will not be so enjoyable for naughty children. And in central Pennsylvania, some are keeping the legend of the Belsnickel alive, spreading that message to anybody who will listen. A voice from a crowd called out to the Belsnickel, "I've been good all year." The Belsnickel turned slowly. He was incredulous. "You've been good all year? You know what? The worst ones are the ones that say I've been good all year. You're the worst one." On that day in early December in Lancaster County, the Belsnickel's words were met with laughter from a group of about 30 different adults, just as he intended. But the Belsnickel, who was played by a man named Rick Brous, who's been playing the character at Landis Valley Village and the Farm Museum for more than 2 decades, is well aware that the Belsnickels of yesteryear were not always so light-hearted. He has said it's tough to clearly define the tradition of the Belsnickel, and it often took on different meanings in different small Pennsylvania Dutch communities, making the task of understanding Belsnickel even harder. In the years after the World Wars, the tradition all but died out. In a climate where Germany was the enemy, many Pennsylvania Dutch wanted to distance themselves from the old country, or at least that's one reason for the Belsnickel's decline. Generally, the Belsnickel was considered a scout for St. Nicholas or Santa Claus. Often a relative or neighbor would dress as Belsnickel around Christmas time, visiting different houses. The Belsnickel would also punish bad children for their previous misdeeds and reward the good ones. His goal was to have a little fun at the children's expense, maybe scare them enough to buy a few weeks of good behavior. Brous described the tradition as pretty tongue-in-cheek. It was generally meant in good fun, and that's in contrast to some old world winter traditions that could be much darker, even demonic in nature. Since the 1800s, the Belznickel has gone by very different names: Belschnickel, Belschnickel, Pelznickel, and many more. But many say Belznickel roughly translates to Nicholas in furs. And he's been in varying degrees of terrifying. Some of the old school Belsnickels of the 1800s smacked the naughty children. Some versions of the tradition intersected with trick-or-treating, and some families took a lighter approach, leading one 1899 account to describe the Belsnickel's visit as a wonderful experience that included gifts. So, when a version of Belznickel made an appearance on NBC's The Office, which takes place in Scranton, Pennsylvania, the character seemed comically out of step with what Christmas has become. This person, or Browse, I guess, personally says, "I think we're missing a little bit of that these days, and there's really no consequences for, some of the bad things you did or do. Back in the older days, there was a consequence for not being good." He wants to educate the public about the character, and even if he doesn't think it really deserves center stage during the holidays, in one northern Pennsylvania county, some families have found a way to keep the tradition alive without the unduly scaring of their children. A man named Ray Beimel, a historian in St. Mary's, Pennsylvania, who grew up with the Belznickel tradition, said some families in that area placed gifts in their children's shoes in the name of Belznickel. Back in Lancaster County, the tradition is gaining some recognition. In addition to the adorably grumpy Belznickel dolls at the Landis Valley Village and the Farm Museum gift shop, a Belznickel-themed bed and breakfast tour sold over 300 tickets in that holiday season in 2017. An organizer of the event said that he sees Belznickel as a crafty, sneaky, and a little bit naughty part of the area's folklore that, according to Carl Costco, president of the Authentic Bed and Breakfast of Lancaster County, but what would the revival of Belznickel be without a healthy dash of skepticism? A man named Butch Reigart of Columbia, Lancaster County, has portrayed Belznickel, and he uses the Belznickel to raise awareness of the Pennsylvania Dutch dialect, which he speaks and offers instruction in. He is especially sensitive to the interpretations of Belznickel that mix pagan elements like horns and other demonic elements. Now everybody is playing Belznickel, whether they know anything about him or not. So, there you have it. Interestingly enough, you have two alternate versions of characters at Christmas time. You have Santa, Belznickel, and Krampus. And Krampus is just terrifying. I don't know if I'll ever dive into Krampus, but maybe someday. Maybe as a pre-Christmas, slightly post-Halloween discussion, we'll talk about Krampus, because he's mortifying to deal with. But there you have it. That is the special bonus episode. A shout out to DJ at work. If you're listening to this, thank you for the idea, and I hope you and your family celebrate Belznickel and that it goes over well. So thank you for listening. Have a safe and happy holiday.